Hey guys, I have a question for you. What is your sales culture like? Do you have a bunch of people knocking it out of the park, or do you have a bunch of people that you just wish you could knock out? I'm Clyde with Direct Success Enterprises, and this is the first video in a series of three entitled What or Why is Culture King? It's the first in a series of three that correlate with three articles that my friend Jack Kleinfelter wrote. They come directly from a quote by Pete Drucker that says, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." What do we mean by that? It is an initiative by us that we have tons of clients that use us for lead generation. And what we would like to do is help their sales culture be a sales culture that is taking the best of every salesperson that we have and taking the best licks, as Jack would say, and using them and teaching them to one another so that everybody improves. John F. Kennedy made a quote famous. I don't know who the original person was who said it. A rising tide lifts all boats. And when you have a good sales culture, it's one where the best salespeople are pouring in to the new salespeople, and everybody's learning from one another. And in Jack's article, he kind of uses the analogy of a band and how when you're in a band, you're kind of stealing one another's licks. You ask your bandmate, "Hey, how did you do that?" And you go back and you practice it, and all of a sudden you're better because your bandmate taught you how to do that, and the whole band is better as a result. Well, our clients are all in the luxury marketing space, and in the luxury marketing space, our prospects are not looking for a widget. They're not looking for a cog. They're looking for an experience. They can go anywhere in the world and get what they want. The reason that they choose the place where they ultimately buy is because somebody cultivated them all the way through the process. The salesperson is so important in the process because they become an ambassador to the whole organization. And if the salespeople are professional, if they're informative, if they're friendly, then the organization seems professional, informative, friendly. But if that salesperson's disheveled, if that salesperson looks like they need a sale, well, now our organization looks disheveled. Our organization looks like they need a sale, right? We've got to create a culture where we're learning all the best licks from one another. Jack has been doing this for 150 years now, and he's constantly learning new licks. I mean, he's done this, right? I've caught him saying, I call these things magic moments. Well, he took that straight from me, right? That's straight from a conversation we had, and he's made it his own, and rightfully so, because we all do that. We all make things our own. I came from one of my mentors. He would say, "I've got a utility belt that I put on like Batman, and what I do is I just take out the little tool that I need for my utility belt." And we got to learn how to do that with our sales when we're talking with our prospect. We all do that. We're all learning from one another. That's why we've got our bookshelves full of books, why we've got our Audible full of different books, why we've got podcasts, right? We all have some sort of sales culture on an individual basis. It might be a bad one, but we've all got one. So how do we get a good one? Well, it takes leadership. If we want the best sales culture that we can have, it's got to come straight from the top, right? And unfortunately, I've been a part of some sales teams where when it comes from the top, it can feel overbearing. When you get out of a sales meeting, you can feel beat up rather than lifted up. You can feel singled out where, oh, well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? That's not a good sales culture. A good sales culture is one where we're looking at what's working. We're we're learning how to be creative, empathetic, and we're helping one another and lifting one another up. And that's the heart of where this series comes from. That's the heart of the articles, and that's why we hope you'll read these. And Jack ended his article with a really good quote, and it comes from the idea that uh, all of the great teams and organizations that are out there, they knew that their culture was king. That when you had a strong group of people working together towards the same goal, that it was going to increase the value of for everyone, from the customer to the organization. Henry Ford, Gary Vanderchuck, Steve Jobs, Aristotle, they all understood that um, your habits, your culture, people working together for a common goal, improving one another, it creates momentum. And that culture is what's going to create results. So I'd like to end with the same quote that Jack ends his article with from Aristotle. It says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." So I hope you're encouraged to be in the habit of having a good culture.